Last night, we brought you the stories of 3 local grandparents raising their grandkids while their own children struggle with opioid addiction. Tonight, we have a closer look at how those grandparents found their support network locally. Western Mass News reporter Audrey Russo has those details, plus a local success story born of similar circumstances.
It's very isolating.
Maureen Vitarelli facilitates a support group for grandparents raising their grandchildren in the greater Westfield area. It began when she found 2 grandparents, each at odds with how to raise young children at an age when most are retiring.
That was 13 years ago, and things grew and grew and grew. Our first group was not heavily drug involved. No. It was mental health and alcohol. Now it's primarily opioid addictions.
Now she and Pamela Doherty work to make a whole new family from the fractures left by opioids.
How do they continue being a parent to their child when, they're being challenged with, raising their grandchildren? How do they support visitations with their grandchildren?
The pair helps Westfield grandparents navigate government aid and resource centers designed to help.
Our issue in Hampden County is that one is in Holyoke, one is in Springfield. That's very far away from Westfield and very far away from the hill towns. Child care vouchers, there can be a very long wait. The problem has grown much quicker than the solutions.
According to data from the U.S. Census Bureau, more than 10,000 Massachusetts kids live with their grandparents as of 2017. Vitarelli says that statistic looks different when you look at kids on the Department of Children and Families radar.
Half of the kids in DCF custody in Massachusetts are in kinship homes, grandparents or other relatives.
These 2 women have found a creative way to answer the questions government programs don't always have time to address.
And we try to meet those needs by finding speakers for them.
When I was a kid being raised by my grandparents, I thought I was the only one out there that had that.
The local grandparents recently had the chance not to hear from another guardian, but from someone who walked in the same shoes as their own grandkids.
They gained custody of me when they were in their late 50s.
Jarrett J. Krasoska is a graphic novel author. He was raised in Worcester by his grandparents while his mother battled a heroin addiction.
My grandparents loved me unconditionally, and they made sure that I would be able to be self-sufficient.
In 2018, Krasoska released Hey Kiddo, a graphic novel about how Joe and Shirley Krasoska went from grandma and grandpa to mom and dad.
When it came to Mother's Day and Father's Day, they got cards that said to mom and to dad.
Why do you think it was important for you to not only write the book, but to do these talking to grandparents who were in Joseph and Shirley's position?
Well, I learned a lot through all of the pain that I lived through, and what good does that do anyone if I just leave it in a box and forget about it?
It may be a different decade, but Krasoska's story is as relevant now as it was years ago. It serves as a light at the end of the tunnel that grandparents raising their grandchild in the wake of addiction can nurture a success story.
I'm able to have all of these books published now because of the determination and grit that was instilled in me. Knowing I was loved, they took care of every single need I had, and here I am all those years later talking about them and writing a book about what they did for me.
In Westfield, Audrey Russo, Western Mass News.